Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why so many overdose deaths involve not just one drug, but many? Today we're diving into a really important study looking at the complex world of fatal drug overdoses, specifically focusing on how often people are using multiple substances when they die. It's a tough topic, but understanding it is crucial for figuring out how to prevent it. So, what did these researchers want to find out? They wanted to get a clearer picture of what drugs were involved when people died from overdoses. It's not just about one drug anymore, it's often a mix, and that makes things way more complicated. How did they do this research? They looked at a special collection of data from deceased individuals in Harris County, Texas, which includes Houston. They got toxicology reports, which are basically tests to see what drugs were in someone's system. They examined cases from 2016 all the way up to 2025. They weren't just looking at any drug found, but also trying to figure out which drugs were considered the cause of death. They grouped all the different drugs into 25 main categories to make sense of the massive amount of information. And what did they discover? Well, it turns out polysubstance use, meaning using more than one drug, was incredibly common. Out of the 73 people whose cases they analyzed, they found an average of about 3.5 different parent drugs in their system. And even more significantly, on average, about 2.5 of those drugs were identified as contributing to their death. Think about that for a second. Almost half of the people in this study had at least 4 different drugs detected in their system, and for more than a quarter of them, at least 4 drugs were considered the cause of death. This isn't just a rare occurrence, it is a significant pattern. Now, they also used a fancy way to measure how varied these drug combinations were. They used something called the Gini-Simpson Index. You can think of this index as a mix-up meter for drug combinations. A high number here means that if you picked 2 people from the study randomly, it is very likely they had completely different combinations of drugs involved in their death. And their mix-up meter showed a very high number. What this means is that most of the drug combinations they saw were unique. 86% of the specific combinations of drugs identified as the cause of death were found in only one person in the entire study. This tells us that there isn't just 1 or 2 common drug mixes leading to death. The combinations are incredibly diverse and complex. So, what is the big takeaway from all this? The study strongly suggests that fatal overdoses today are rarely about a single substance. They are overwhelmingly linked to the use of multiple drugs. And importantly, the specific combinations of these drugs are not simple or predictable. They are highly varied from one case to another. This complexity poses a huge challenge for researchers trying to understand and prevent these deaths. Trying to simplify this messy reality for studies or for developing new treatments means researchers have to make difficult choices. They can either make things simpler but lose a lot of important detail, or keep all the fine details, which makes the research incredibly complex and potentially harder to get clear answers from. This balance between simplicity and detail is a major hurdle. This study really highlights the ongoing 4th wave of the opioid crisis, which is characterized by this widespread use of multiple substances, especially fentanyl mixed with stimulants. It's like a tangled web of drugs, and untangling it is a difficult but necessary task. The fact that most fatal overdoses now involve more than one drug is a stark reality check. This research shows us just how true that statement is. It's not about blaming individuals, but understanding the complex patterns of drug use and its devastating consequences. Now, it's important to remember the limitations of this study. While it gives us a fascinating glimpse into these complex cases, it was based on a convenient sample. This means the people in the study were gathered in a specific way, not necessarily chosen randomly from all overdose deaths in Harris County. So, we can't say for sure that these patterns apply to every single overdose death in the county or across the country. Also, the sample size itself was quite small, only 73 individuals. This means the researchers could really only describe what they saw and couldn't do deep statistical analysis to prove cause and effect. They also mentioned that the toxicology results were analyzed in a basic way, and they didn't do confirmation tests for everything. Despite these limitations, the study had some real strengths. Accessing detailed toxicology reports is significant, and their use of a comprehensive pharmacogenomic resource called ClintBeep-GX was a smart move. This resource helps them connect drugs to genes, which is becoming increasingly important in understanding how people react to drugs. What does this mean for the future? The researchers are calling for better ways to categorize drugs. Right now, how we group drugs can depend on whether we're looking at it from a research angle, a clinical angle, or a policy angle. They suggest we need clearer, context-specific ways to classify these drugs to make our research more effective. Ultimately, this study is a crucial piece of the puzzle in understanding the modern overdose crisis. It paints a clear picture. Polysubstance use is the norm, and the combinations are incredibly diverse. This pushes us to think more deeply about how we collect, analyze, and interpret data in this field. It confirms what many researchers already suspect and what other studies are showing. This is a polysubstance overdose crisis. The sheer number of drugs and the endless combinations make it incredibly challenging to tackle. But understanding this complexity is the absolute first step toward finding solutions. This kind of research, while somber, is incredibly important. It's a tribute to the individuals and families who have been affected by this crisis, and it fuels the work needed to prevent future tragedies. So, what do you think about the complexity of polysubstance use in overdose deaths? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with anyone who might benefit, and don't forget to subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more deep dives into the fascinating world of psychology and science. Thanks for watching!